Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, and welcome to Work Trends with Megan and Biro. Whether you're here to network, learn, or share, we want you to have fun. During this live broadcast and Twitter chat, we'll discuss the future of work with smart and entertaining guests who value today's business and its impact on the world of work for the future. Stay tuned, because we start in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another informative talent culture, work trends, live podcast and Twitter chat. I'm reporting here live from Cambridge, Mass., and it is like 90 degrees and humid. We've been having a little bit of a heat wave here in New England, so I know many of you have actually across the country. So everybody hang in there, stay hydrated, get out there and still enjoy summer, because as we all know, it's passing in a flash. So I'm here today. We have a really interesting guest here with me today, and very, very interesting stuff. We're talking about negotiation and how important this is in everyday life. But first, I want to give a special thank you to all of my friends and sponsors who make all of this possible for the show to go live every week. I appreciate each and every one of you. And most importantly, to the community out there who continues to tune in and listen and share and learn and do all those things that I love best. So thanks for all your support. I really appreciate you guys. So today we have a fascinating topic and an even more fascinating guest. So here with me today is a former FBI lead international hostage negotiator by the name of Chris Voss. He is here because we're gonna overthink it today. We're gonna get kind of geeky on you all, and we're gonna explore and understand the art of negotiation. We're gonna learn why saying you're right and yes are at the root of the vast majority of misunderstandings in the workplace today. Go figure, right? And we're going to be able to learn and apply from Chris's experience as a negotiator and author to the world of work. Do you know why that's right is the gold standard of great responses? So let's dig on in, and let me introduce Chris Voss. He is a former FBI lead international hostage negotiator, as I mentioned. He was named the Best of Los Angeles 2015 for the best negotiation training. He's the CEO of the Black Swan Group and author of the national bestseller, Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It. Love it. As a 24-year veteran of the FBI, Chris retired as their lead international kidnapping negotiator, and his company specializes in solving business problems with hostage negotiation solutions. So cool. I can't wait to hear from the community today as we learn from Chris. I can't wait to get into Chris's brain right now. So welcome, Chris. What say you?
Thank you, Megan. Thank you very much. This is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this. Hostage negotiation for everyday life. What a crazy idea, huh?
Isn't it crazy? I know, but you know what? As we're sitting here, right, and we have so much unrest in the world, right? Literally a global crisis that has been unfolding with what seems like every other day there's a bombing or there's some major threat happening in various countries. I actually think, for better or worse, the timing of this is actually impeccable, right? It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, we take ourselves hostage with all these reactions to this crazy stuff, and then it's exactly what we do in our everyday life. I mean, we start reacting to stuff, or we start being driven by what we really care about, and we start either taking ourselves hostage or getting taken hostage just on a day-to-day, on a regular basis.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. I mean, you certainly have an interesting career path. When did you leave the FBI? And what has your journey been just in kind of a career nutshell ever since? It seems like you've been doing a lot of really interesting, more entrepreneurial work. So tell us just a little bit about you, Chris, from a career perspective. And then we can dive in and get into some more of the nitty-gritty.
Well, I really I started on this trajectory, which is going to end up using hostage negotiation in business and personal negotiations way back when I first started my training as a hostage negotiator back in 1991. And I got that training started off by volunteering on a suicide hotline, and that was just interacting with people with their everyday problems. And then I left the bureau, in November 2007 because I had gone through Harvard Law School's negotiation course and then taught there. But I went through their course in 2006, and that was when I first started actively applying this stuff to business negotiations while I went through their education. And I was just using hostage negotiation strategies on Harvard lawyers was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's totally fun. Talk about a brain teaser, huh?
Well, they didn't know what to deal with it. They were used to this. They believed in this idea that an intellectual argument was going to carry the day in a negotiation, and that's just nonsense. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so as soon as somebody wouldn't play their intellectual game, they were really just kind of perplexed by it. They didn't know how to react to it because I was punching their buttons in different ways, and they just didn't know what to do with it. The most dangerous negotiations, the one you don't know you're in, and they had no idea what I was doing to them. And
yeah. Well, there's a huge psychological component to all of this, right? I mean, you and I were kind of chit-chatting a little bit in the green room. This is psychology. This is so much more than, we're going to connect the dots from A to B. This is looking at somebody and seeing them in 3D, right? That's what I like to say.
Exactly.
Even in my days as a recruiter, right, and finding good matches between people and getting into people's heads. And, I've always been fascinated by people. It sounds like you might be the same way, Chris, where it's like I never really take what people say at face value. I always want to know more. I'm very curious. Every day I wake up and I go, how are we going to see the world or people in a different way? There's just got to be more than all this. So, I think what's really interesting is when we start looking at the connection between your intense career trajectory, right, and this connection between hostage negotiations and conversations that are happening every day in everyday life, even every day in people's places of work, right? What is this connection we're talking about? When we talk about, we're drawing a parallel right now. We're saying there's a connection between hostage negotiations and conversations that happen every day for people. So what is that? What is that connection?
Well, we're driven by what we care about, no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing. And, if we're driven, you make your decisions based on what you care about. And if that's the case,
that's true.
Then every decision you make is an emotional decision because it's driven by what you care about, and what you care about is an emotional issue.
But we care about things for different reasons, right?
Now you
can't
begin to break it down.
You can't untame the heart, right? You can't untrain what your heart feels, but I've learned over the years that you can't always just be heart-centered, or you can't be driven by emotion. There has to be another side to that. You have to be driven by something more logical, right? So
If
when
you're
we
not
start
driven,
tying,
if you're not driven by emotion, then what are you driven by?
You're driven by logic as well, I think, as we go. But I think I'm with you. I see where you're going here. I think emotion's a primary driver. I do. I think, we can't stop being human, right? That's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. So I like where we're going with this. It's all about human nature in the gut and what you're feeling, right? Because what you're feeling does drive your behaviors. I also believe that, actually. So explain to us, explain to us the difference between you're right and that's right. What's that all about?
Well, you're right is what we tell someone we really like who won't shut up. It's how we get them to shut up. When somebody somebody really close to you, or someone in your workplace that you're maintaining an ongoing relationship with, and they're after you, and they just won't let up. They've got this logic. They've got all their logic. They're laying out their argument. And you like them, you want to maintain the relationship, but you really need to get them to leave you alone, and you want to preserve the relationship. So you look them in the eye and you say, "You're right. and they're happy. You know who the world's greatest practitioners are? You know who the world's greatest practitioners of you're right are, don't you?
No, who?
Husbands.
Husbands?
Yeah, right,
wives?
exactly.
Where do wives fit in?
Oh, wives aren't looking at their
Girlfriends.
husbands and saying, you're right. They're looking at husbands and trying to get them to come to their senses.
Well, I can respect that. That's certainly one angle, right? Hey, by the way, did you catch Bill Clinton last evening? That was kind of an interesting profile, huh? Interesting state of affairs there.
He fascinates me in his ability to make friends with people who have openly hated him. I mean, there's no shortage of people, especially since he left office, that were exceptionally critical of him. And he goes and he makes friends with them, and they become great colleagues of his. That's a guy whose emotional intelligence is just through the stratosphere. It's not his IQ, it's his EQ. And he's got a good IQ.
Yes, he does. He's got the best of both. And those two as a couple, by the way, you and I could have a whole nother discussion about them. I think they are fascinating. They really are a team in so many senses of that word, right? And I bet you they've kind of got this. They know how to negotiate, obviously, through tough times and the good times as well. And, it's amazing. They're still trucking and they're still doing their thing. So, I think that there is a difference between you're right and that's right. How has yes become a trap in the workplace? Why is saying yes something that might be scary from your perspective?
Well, there's three kinds of yeses. There's commitment, confirmation, and counterfeit. And everyone tries to lay a trap with us over the confirmation yeses. Would you confirm this is true? Would you confirm this is true? Isn't it true? Would you like to make more money? Would you like to be prosperous? Would you like to have more vacation time? If I open a conversation with you and I say, would you like to, whatever it is, it's this charming inducement that everybody likes, that's a trap. You know that I'm trying to lead you down to a bear trap with little bitty yeses. So the big bear trap is a big yes at the other end of the line. And we're so hammered by that. We're like battered children. At the moment anybody tries to get us to say yes to anything, our initial thought is, where is this going? What commitment am I letting myself in for by saying yes? You can't tell me that you get a warm and fuzzy feeling when someone calls you on the phone and the voice says, do you have a few minutes to talk? Immediately,
just a direct
you get nervous.
Question.
It's not just a direct question. It's a closed-ended question where the other person is quite obviously fishing for a yes. So we know that it's a trap. It's just it's so practiced on it. There's actually it's a technique. It's called mirror agreement. There's actually a study out there that shows, according to the study, that the more little yeses you get into a conversation, the more likely you are to get the big yes. And I love the ridiculous nature of this. You can find an academic study that backs up almost anything.
Yeah.
So you got to look at the study to see whether or not you think that they conducted it properly. But I don't know anybody on the planet who, as soon as somebody says, would you like to make more money, immediately and unreservedly says, yes, tell me what you want me to do.
Yeah.
We know it's a trap. We know it's a trap. And then the crazy part of that is, when it's done to us, we know it's a trap. But the flip side is, nothing makes us happier than to hear yes. And so since we're so happy hearing it, we're constantly trying to get it out of other people. And we've got this crazy, paranoid, schizophrenic interaction built into our day-to-day stuff because of this.
And so how do people get around this? How do people think strategically and think ahead on how they're interacting with their colleagues at work, their spouses, their mates, whatever, their friends? How do we not get in this trap of being asked that question?
Well, then you stop going for yes, and the path to agreement is not yes. And you mentioned it earlier before. What do you want somebody to say in a conversation? You want them to say, that's right. And if you take the time, it's what we call the delay to save time. Because you're trying to get off the gerbil wheel of this, you're right, and nothing happens. Or yes, the counterfeit yes, and nothing happens, which is why we're in these conversations over and over again. And we love to hear you're right and yes so much. It gets us such intense emotional satisfaction. There's a great emotional payoff for that. Then we're completely hypnotized by not realizing or understanding why we're not getting anything done, why we have any same conversations, why this project doesn't move forward, why the deal doesn't get implemented, because we got into this gerbil wheel of conversations. So to get off the gerbil wheel, if you slow down just a little bit more and try to get the other person to say that's right instead of you're right, then bang, you suddenly get breakthroughs and you start actually moving things forward. And things overall move much more quickly. You don't have 20 conversations to try to get one thing done. You have anywhere from 1 or 2 conversations and things move forward. So
Interesting.
people say that's right.
Why do we say you're right to get people to leave us alone and go away without hurting their feelings? Or how do we do that? Why do we do that?
We say you're right.
How do we do that? Yeah.
No, we look at them. We say you're right. They're happy. I mean, you make someone so enormously happy because we probably love to be told you're right more than we love yes. I mean, and that's why our day-to-day interactions are emotional, because we'll take that emotional payoff, that incredible satisfaction when somebody looks us in the eye and say, you're right, and we feel so good. And we completely lose track of everything. We get this big happy smile on our face, and we turn around and we go back to our office. And then the person that said it to us goes back to their desk and goes back to what they were doing in the first place, which is why we were talking to them, because we wanted them to change their behavior. But they don't.
Well, what happens when people aren't connecting? I'm worried about where we're going with this conversation, because all I'm hearing is we're always looking out for ourselves, right? And how to negotiate around and do all this strategic stuff. But what happens to the human in this? Right?
That's exactly the point.
I'm a little worried about this. Yeah, you're right though. That's exactly the point. What you're saying is sometimes getting to the heart of this communication style actually can bring people to a place that's more maybe honest, maybe more real, maybe more impactful. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, when we're trying to be honest, what are we trying to do? We're doing the other thing. I had a friend of mine, he told me he went to some negotiation training. He said, well, there's 3 steps to negotiation. And the first step is make sure the other side understands where you're coming from. So what you have there is you have 2 negotiators who are fully determined to make sure the other side knows where they're coming from. So who's listening?
Hopefully both sides.
If my number one determination is to make sure you understand me, how much listening am I doing?
Right.
I'm not doing any.
You're not doing
I'm
any.
not doing any. Because I'm focused on making sure you tell me that you understand. So, and I'm not going to let up until I feel you understand. So to get me to let up, what do you say? You're right.
No, you know what I'm going to say to you? I'm going to say to you the next time we get together in Cambridge for lunch, I'm going to say no. And what kind of power is that going to give me to say no to you? That's what I want to know. Because I think I think you get a lot of yeses. I want to tell you no. What happens?
So when I call on the phone, since I said the worst thing to say is, do you have a few minutes to talk? Nobody that works for me ever says that. Instead, we say, is now a bad time to talk? Instead, we say, is now a bad time to talk? Because when you say no, instead of worrying about what you committed yourself to, you've just protected yourself. And every time we protect ourselves, we center ourselves emotionally, and we stop worrying about what we committed ourselves to, And we're actually more open to listening when we say the word no, because we protected ourselves. What do we have to worry about?
Interesting.
Every time when my son was 17 years old, every time he came up to me and started a sentence with, "Dad, can I?" before he was finished, I'd say no. And then I would say, "Now wait a minute, but what was it that you wanted?" And then I'd actually listen to him. Because I'd already said no, so I don't have to change my answer. I'm completely protected. Now I'm actually interested in hearing what he has to say. Because I don't have to worry about what I've committed myself to.
Wow. And what is he up to these days, by the way, as an aside? I'm just curious.
He's got a horrible boss. He works for me.
There you go. Enough said, right? So he does work for you. That's cool.
Yeah, he works for me full time. He's turned into an enormously talented negotiator. And, I suppose that makes sense because he's been dealing with me since he was 2 years old.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't imagine dealing with you since 2, by the way. I mean that with all due respect. I adore you. We're already best friends. We had a lot of fun in the green room talking. We're new BFFs, but, that's an interesting place to be. Like, I'd like to have another conversation with your son, by the way, after this, because I find you and this whole conversation just fascinating. So do me a favor. Explain. Yes. What?
Explain?
Explain your advice. Delay to save time. What does that mean? Tell the audience more about what that means.
Yeah, that's just it takes a little longer to get a "that's right" out of somebody. And as soon as you get a "that's right," there's two things that happen when somebody says "that's right" to you. They've just pronounced what you said as the complete truth. I mean, when you're watching TV and you say a politician or you see a sports event or you see something happen that you totally believe in, you jump up and you point at the TV and you go, "That's right." Pronounce what you've seen or heard as the complete truth and then accepted it. So it takes a little bit longer to do that. You get somebody to say "that's right." It's going to take you a few more moments, but then they've looked at you and they've said what you just said is a complete truth. The second part of that is, and I had somebody at a conference point this out to me, it's the other side signaling to you that they feel complete empathy from you. They're telling you that they feel this unconscious bond. And you put those two things together and you break through a barrier, you move the negotiation forward faster than you ever did before, and you get off the gerbil wheel.
How many people, in your estimation, do you think are on a gerbil wheel, like on a daily basis? Is there any percentage? I'm just curious.
I got to tell you something. I'll bet nearly everybody feels like they're on a gerbil wheel. Does anybody have a project that moves forward as quickly as it should have?
Right.
Has anybody got co-workers that are paying attention to what they're trying to get done with you and keep your priorities in their top of mind? No. People get distracted the minute they get off the phone with you. They go have lunch. Good God, how many people were chasing Pokemon over the last couple of weeks? Some
lots of people.
If we weren't on a gerbil wheel on a regular basis, why did companies have to literally put up signs saying anyone leaving the office looking for Pokemon will be terminated?
It's ridiculous. So ridiculous, isn't it?
What are the symptoms of a gerbil wheel? Like, look around.
Right. Just look around at what's happening, even in social media too, right? Everyone's looking at their phones. Everyone's tweeting. Everyone's communicating. Right? How much? Yeah, you're right. I mean, when we start really looking at the gerbil wheel, it's mind blowing if you really think about it. Now, we're running down on time. I mean, I know we're going to continue this fascinating conversation over on the Twitters, but tell us just a little bit about your book, Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It. What can we learn? What can everybody out there learn from this?
Check, the Amazon reviews, the thing that I love about the Amazon reviews is fully. You go through them, and everybody says easy to pick up, counterintuitive, fun to read, made an immediate difference in my life. I mean, there's some really counterintuitive stuff that if you just try it. I get an email from a businessman that says he bought my book and we read part of it on a plane on a way to a meeting, applied 2 things he learned in the book in the first 3 chapters, and got the deal 2 weeks early.
Nice.
What that tells you is that it's easy to absorb and apply.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm wondering. I'm guilty of not reading it yet, so BFF. I'll read it soon, don't you worry. But, having those key takeaways, right, because we're overthinking it a little bit in this conversation, which I love, and I say bring it. But what's really nice for us to know is that you can get in there and get into the nitty-gritty with your book, which I like also. So tell me, we'll all get that book, right? Everyone out there, let's all try to be better negotiators. I know I could use it in my own life, and I'm sure every single one of you can. Tell me just a little bit before we end. We're down to about 4 minutes left. What was your craziest day on the job as an international hostage negotiator? And, of course, you can be vague with us if you need to, but tell us just a little bit about some of the craziness that happened in that career, like one brief story for us.
Well, I get a call. There's a kidnapping in the Philippines, and I find out the negotiation has already started with the family. The kidnapper has told the family, if you don't want to pay a ransom for your son, that's okay. I'll sell his organs in Saudi Arabia.
Right. No big deal, by the way. Yeah, right.
That gets people's attention.
Wow. Yeah.
And I actually I coached, because when great negotiation, I'm a negotiation coach. And I coach people through negotiations all over the world. So I coached a brother in the family through the negotiation. And I've actually had him come and talk about this particular kidnapping negotiation at my classes in the business schools, because it was a business deal.
Yeah.
Where the other guy thought he had all the leverage. And the secret to gaining the upper hand in a negotiation is giving the other side the illusion of control. And we caught that guy and we put him in jail, and he felt so comfortable because we gave him the illusion of control.
That makes sense.
You handle a Donald Trump with the illusion of control.
I love it. I love you bringing up the Donald in this. I know he's been top of mind too. Absolutely. And then he's all about having that sense of control, right? It comes through in just about everything he does and touches in his life.
And as soon as you give him that feeling of control, he drops his guard. And that's what you want to do with a guy like that.
We're down to 90 seconds, and you're absolutely right. And that if you actually study his behavior over these months, I actually see that happening now that you're mentioning that. That's fascinating. Well, any other fascinating manipulation tools you can share with us to gain the upper hand at work or in personal relationships in 60 seconds or less? Any other
This is not
takeaways?
Manipulation. This is not manipulation. Come on now, man. Why would I ever want to manipulate you?
Come on. Give us a couple of fascinating tidbits. Come on.
Well,
you can do this.
What do you mean? Fascinating tidbits?
Well, hey, I have to say I have really enjoyed this conversation. We're about to run out of time, but thank you so much for being my special guest star today, Chris Voss, the CEO of Black Swan Group and a national bestseller for Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It. Let's take this conversation over to Twitter, and thank you for your time today. Let's continue this conversation.
All right, very good. I'll take me a moment to get this figured out, but I'll be over there shortly.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome.
Talk to you soon.